Welcome back. Welcome back. You are listening to Whissel Weekends on AM 1170, The Answer. My name is Kyle Whissel, your host with Whissel Realty, typically joined by Mr. Jason Hall with Team Home Loans, but he is out serving his duty as the Los Angeles Chargers fan club president, and I believe he's either consoling Hunter Henry right now or begging Antonio Gates to come back to the team. So, Jason, we wish you luck, and we miss you, dude. Also in studio, we got James Cassady with State Farm Insurance.
Like a good neighbor.
James is there.
Yeah.
So, James, it is Disability Awareness Month.
Yep.
You sell or help people. I shouldn't say sell. You help people with their insurance needs.
Yep.
Disability insurance is one of those things that I would venture to guess that 95% of people probably don't have, unless their employer's providing it.
Correct.
Probably 95% of the remainder of people out there don't have disability insurance.
Well, here's the way I kind of look at it. I want to back up a little bit. We insure our automobiles because we have to by law, right? We insure the home because the escrow company requires us to do it. But those are there, and we've used those before, and we know how valuable they can be. I mean, I've had multiple homes completely burned down, and State Farm's cutting checks to rebuild the home for $450,000, personal property for another $300,000, loss of use for the hotel. You know, we're talking cool million on a policy that they're paying $800 a year on, right? So we insure all these things, but we wouldn't have these things to insure if we don't have the income to pay for those things. So that's huge. And as you're sitting there on Saturday and you're sitting there working on your car, or doing gardening in your house, you look around and go, I don't have any of this unless I have the income that provides it, unless you inherited it, right? So we'll spend the money to insure those things, but when it comes to actually insuring the paycheck, no one's doing it. And if they do have it through work, they don't know anything about it. They don't know the elimination period. They don't know the length. They don't know if they're going to be eligible. You know, it may not cover them if it wasn't particularly like a style of illness or a style of injury. So it's very hit and miss, and it's not your entire income that it's protecting. If they provided your entire income, no one's going to want to come off of disability.
Right.
I'll ride that sucker out. I would.
Right.
It's like, I'm a realist. And so it's not priced or provided at your full 100%. Typically, it's 40, 50, 60% of your income. That's still, for most people who are paycheck to paycheck, devastating. So there's some limitations to how much you can actually have. And we can talk about that as we do consulting, as we sit with our customers and we do an insurance and financial review. We sit down and we kind of have that conversation about, okay, well, the standard 3 months backup of savings, right? Only a certain amount of people have that. I think it's like 50% only have one month's backup. So not many people have 3 months, but most of these disability policies will have an elimination period, which means before you get paid, you have to go through this elimination period. And then you're not getting paid right away. You then have to earn that month, and you get paid at the end of the month. So typically it's like 4 months until you're actually getting funds. And it's not at 100%. So you're strapped, you're out, you're broke, and you don't know what you're going to do. You foreclose on the home, turn in the cars, have them repoed, whatever it is. But there's different ways to adjust and cover those gaps.
Okay.
And there's different levels. And you can actually layer disability policies. A short-term disability policy can be layered on top of a long-term disability policy. And I can go into a little bit more detail.
So, talk about the difference between short and long-term.
Okay, so short-term is anywhere from 1 to 3 years. You can have elimination periods from 1 month to 3 months. Long-term disability is anywhere from, it'll pay up to disability of 5 years to age 65. And you can have different elimination periods depending on how much you want to pay. Do you want to do the 1 month, 3 months? Do you want to have a year in elimination period? So if you're being strategic about your policies and you were going to layer these things to make sure you're covering your gaps, it might behoove you to have a 1 month elimination period on a short-term disability And then on your long-term disability, the one that's more expensive, have a year elimination period, because that short-term is going to cover anywhere from $300 to $3,000. Again, not everything, but hopefully the other policy that you have through work kicks in.
Right.
Or Social Security disability kicks in. But 74% of the long-term disability that's put in through Social Security gets denied on the initial application.
Wow.
So there's no guarantee that you're going to get that anyway. So from a strategy standpoint, we sit down with our offices, call your local State Farm agent, set up an appointment, and go, okay, look, I know I wouldn't have any of this if it wasn't for my income. I'm insuring everything else. I'm insuring the boat, right? I'm insuring the motorcycles, the quads, the travel trailer. But
you're East County when those are all the things you mentioned, right?
My office is in Santee. I work in the entire state of California, but my office is in Santee.
Santee proud, baby.
Mm-hmm. And so have that conversation with your agent and sit down and go, okay, well, what's the cost? It's not inexpensive, but if done properly, those insurance policies, the health insurance, disability insurance policies, can add an additional 5% discount to your automobile insurance through State Farm. So it can help offset some of that cost that you have to pay. You're like, okay, well, at least I'm doing it. Let's reap the benefit. And it's not as expensive. It's like on sale.
Okay.
That's the way I kind of look at it.
Got it. Again, you're listening to Whissel Weekends, AM 1170, The Answer. We're talking with James Cassady, State Farm Insurance, talking about Disability Awareness Month. And I had no idea there was this much that went into disability insurance. If you guys want to connect with James, I'd love to make that introduction for you. Give me a call or shoot me a text. My direct number, 619-663-SELL, 619-663-7355, and I will get you connected. You reacted when I said so much.
Yeah. I mean, so some facts. I brought some papers because I got some facts. I got some numbers. I just want to make sure I get correct. But 1 in 4 households in the United States are business owners. You and I are both business owners. It's not provided by me, by my business, unless I produce it. I know you've set some stuff up for your team, right? And you've gone through that process with the life insurance and a few other things, and health insurance. But it can be provided through work. But I think what really hits home is most people are looking at it going, okay, well, if it's work-related and it's disability, it probably needs to be an injury. But 90% of the disability claims are actually illness-related, not injury-related, long-term illness. And so you have to really look deep into it. 1 in 5 Americans live with a disability. 1 in 10 live with a severe disability. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I can see 10 people in eyesight right now.
Right. And are they being taken care of? How is the government taking care of them? Right? Because of the disability? Were they born with a disability? Was it something that was preventable? I don't know. I just look at it kind of going, I think it's super important because their paycheck, when I talk to someone, I'm sitting down and I look at them and I go, okay, what's your most valuable asset? And most of them will go, my home is my most valuable asset. And I'd say, okay, well, let me reframe it for you. Your family is probably your most valuable asset. You're not thinking of that. And it was a trick question, but given everything, I would move into a 1-bedroom apartment. And if I had my family, I'd be happy and I'd be okay. My most valuable asset is my family. The second most valuable asset is the income, because of what we talked about earlier. The third, probably the home. 4th, retirement accounts, vehicles, other investment items that you may have. So I think it's, when I look at it from a triangle of protection standpoint. I look at taking this triangle, hovering it over you and going, okay, this is you. This is your own personal scenario because everybody's different. And going, okay, well, this is what we're trying to protect. Life insurance policies, home insurance policies, the liability associated with those things, and then disability. You're right. A minor amount of people actually pull the trigger on disability, but I took over for a State Farm agent that had a minor stroke, but he had a fat disability policy in place. So he could have probably gone back to work, still functional. I've talked to him on multiple occasions. He moved back to Minnesota, called it a day, took the disability check, and basically retired off into the sunset.
Did he go to the Super Bowl in
Oh,
Minnesota?
he might have gone to the Super Bowl in Minnesota.
With the disability
Right.
check. That is interesting, though, that you mentioned. I think you said 90% of the disabilities that happen are more illness related.
Yeah.
Not, typically the stuff we think of is like, well, what if I get hit by a car? What if, something happens to me? People aren't thinking about illness enough. And a stroke is a great example, or a heart attack, or, cancer, or any of those things hit you that disable your ability to go work. That's where this comes into play. And I think that that's big. If you're listening to the show and that struck a chord with you like it did for me, again, I'd love to connect you with James. Call me or text me. I'll get you connected. 619-663-SELL, 619-663-7355, and we'll make that connection happen. It's just obviously that would have been an interesting story if your person's business you took over didn't have that disability insurance, somebody in the insurance industry. But I think if you talk to anybody who is in the insurance industry about what policies, I would venture to guess disability is big on their list, and then umbrellas is the other huge one that
Right.
a lot of people don't have. You've mentioned a couple times now. Everybody insures their vehicles, everybody insures their house, and then a lot of times it stops there because we're only insuring what we have to and not necessarily what we need to.
That's a great segue to what we'll talk about next segment, because I want to talk about kind of what your mentor told you about picking up the umbrella policy.